Hi, everybody. I think I'd like to, if I could, just divert from the program for just a sec to give you a little bit of news about something in near. And I was thinking about this coming down. You know, it's been a hard year for everybody since we met last. And one of the things that I think culminated it for everybody was how tiresome that election got last fall. I really don't care whether your side was John Boehner or Barney Frank, but I think we can take it to the bank that all of those people were just spinning their wheels and playing to the grandstand as opposed to worrying about what they should be, which is driving this country out of trouble. Well, as I said, there is some good news. You might remember that one of the things that we did last year at this banquet was to bring Marty Hardy into the Hall of Fame. And Marty is a really good guy. He's one of you noisy people from New Hampshire. He's 91 years old, and Marty thought, I've had enough. And Marty ran for state representative in New Hampshire as a Republican, and damn it, he won. So, Marty, will you please start up there in New Hampshire and get this straightened out for all of us? And now, back to the program, and back to this issue of Jerry Dolliver. You know, there was an aspect to Jerry Dolliver that's just plain storybook. And let me explain that a little bit. You know how it is that a lot of the old-time drivers that we've recognized over the years were just a little bit standoffish? You know what I mean, the engineer boots of Pete Corey, remember them? And how about Judd Larson? Remember how he'd roll the cigarettes up in the sleeve of his t-shirt? Or even Don Moon when he put that extra little doo-wop wave in his hair. Well, up there in the sleepy little town of Kingston, New Hampshire, it was really, really different. Jerry Dolliver was totally accessible. He was the prince of the village. He was everybody's buddy, completely down to earth. He has a good friend named Skip Armstrong who was with him for years, and Skip is here today. And Skip would say of Jerry, wicked good guy. He'd just do anything for anybody, particularly older people. And I just don't understand quite how he made a dime doing it. But he did, and he got by. He got by for a whole generation, his Sunoco station being the civic center of Kingston, New Hampshire, and certainly the gathering point. Well, there was another aspect to Jerry as well, and that was he was a race car driver, and he was world-class caliber. It started in the 40s in hulking sedans and the ice races, and he got really good. So he morphed over to Pine Speedway, where he was 8-time track champion in the cut-downs, often driving that Merrimack Brothers cut-down out of the Merrick Brothers out of the Merrimack Valley. And he won the AARN championship in 1955 for overall in New England. He then, quite remarkably, had one engine built by Bill Welch, which is now in the Pro 9 Museum that Rick Mariscal and R.A. Sylvia have. And with that little flathead motor alone, he won over 100 feature events. That has to be a national record of some kind. And Jerry just kept on going. Supers, sprint cars, modifieds, hill climb cars at Belknap's, snowmobiles, whatever you want, he raced it. And he raced them well. It was storybook. But you know something? Remember the words of Steve McQueen, how he used to croon with that string band of his, how into every life a little rain must fall? Well, Jerry was no exception. One of the really, really tough moments was the day that he went to cut the lid off a 55-gallon drum that he just bought and was told was clean, and it exploded, and he suffered horrific injuries being hurled across his garage. And then Jerry had 2 sons, Brian and Peter. Now, Peter was absolutely a wonderful guy by anybody's measure, but he was sick. He had diabetes right from the start, and this was a situation that just went downhill. It was very sad, and Peter would later die with a pancreatic transplant that didn't quite work out. And Jerry, he had some problems of his own. He always looked so energetic, and he was taut, fit as a fiddle. The truth is, he was born with a congenitally small heart valve. They tried to fix it at Hitchcock Medical Center in the 60s, but it didn't really work. And he always suffered from exhaustion, and he was tired so easily. It was a real chore for him. But how he loved to race, and he just kept going. Then finally, in 1991, that old ticker was getting ready to give out. Jerry was really looking forward to a tour with Nema Midgets, and he was in a car built by Skip Armstrong, and he was warming up at Star in August of '91, and he pulled off the track, came into the pits, went over as he often did, sat on the rail of the trailer, had a cup of water, and keeled over. Gentlemen, Jerry died. Well, you know, whatever your spiritual orientation may be, I don't think that any of you can disagree with me that one way or another, Jerry Dolliver is with us today, right in this hall. Right over there, most certainly his son Brian is. Brian is a very well-known name in northern New England racing circles. Brian's run 350 Supers, sprint cars, modifieds. He's run Bear Ridge, Canaan, Big Daddies, Lee, Beach Ridge, and won. If you've ever watched Brian drive, you would see that calm, consistent style that so characterized his dad. And sitting right next to Brian is Jerry's grandson, Max Dolliver. Max Dolliver is just 10, but he started last year at Route 106 Raceway and at Twin Cities Speedway in his karts. And you know what? Right to the podium finishes, folks. This kid's gonna be hot. I think one of the most delightful things about this sport that we have is that it develops such amazingly rich family racing legacies. So it's altogether appropriate that we now ask Brian and Max to come up here and help their father step in to the New England Hall of Racing Fame in perpetuity.
I want to thank everyone for voting my dad in. He'd really appreciate it, and thank you.